We on. It's the dawn of a new age. The sun is rising from the horizon. Our heroes start to make their way to their destination, to their home. Follow them along. I don't know where this was going.
I don't even know if people heard you.
Oh my god!
It sounds like one of those, inspirational. It's about to happen kind of sounds. It's funny.
Oh shit!
All right, you crazy kids.
Welcome to
That's
another edition of That's Canon. Mr. Kojo, how you doing, man?
Not bad yourself, Mr. Toby?
Not too bad. Just need another cup of coffee. I might leave you guys for like 2 minutes at some point to go grab some more coffee. I stayed up. I was telling you before, I stayed up late till like 3 a.m. playing Warzone with Splack, who's a friend of King Batch. I met it where I was on Twitch one day and I saw him streaming. And I just literally I noticed he only has like 5K on Twitch, whereas on Instagram he has like 1.2 million or something like that. Yeah, so it's hard, like when there's that many people, it's hard to sort of like you message them, they're not returning any message. So on Twitch, I saw a prime opportunity to just like start messaging, like because I play Warzone too, so I was like giving them strategies as they were playing, and he was like reading the comments, and there weren't that many people chatting when I came in, so mine was visible. So he just started talking to me literally as he was playing, and then he added me to his friends list, and now I've played with him like a handful of times while he's streaming live on Twitch. So it's kind of cool.
Toby's moving on up in the world. He's
I
making
know,
those
I
connections.
know. Slowly but surely. He's cool. He's a cool dude.
It sounds like you got to start doing some gaming stuff, man. Some gaming reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
Gaming reviews.
Then you get him on the show, and then
I've thought about it. I actually thought about even streaming my play, but I don't think I'm interesting enough. It's one of those things where you have to like be funny, you have to have quips, you have to like engage the people as you're playing. So I feel like all that shit at the same time as trying to concentrate on the game would be distracting. But it depends on what kind of game you're, because it doesn't always have to be Call of Duty. You can play whatever game you want to, right? So
do you have a capture card? Like how are you, like how is it? It's you have a
so PlayStation, which is cool, already has like you can literally stream live from your PlayStation.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And all you need is a PlayStation camera on the top. You just have to buy that attachment, and then with Twitch makes it simple. You can it just does it all for you. So I don't need OBS or any of that stuff.
And I think the new PS has that too.
Yeah, and a lot of streamers are PC players, so it's easier for them to get all this stuff done.
Yeah, because I know I keep seeing ads because I looked up a streaming computer once, and all the ads I get for computers now always have all these crazy ass streaming specs and like OBS and then I get ads for like the streaming HD capture card and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, guys, I just want to be able to stream what we're doing here well with OBS. But now that we figured out a different option, which we're using right now, StreamYard, if you guys are watching this, because we're going to be having some of the videos for these episodes up. But if you're listening to it, thank you for tuning in. But if you're watching this, we're using StreamYard to record this. So
that we are. And to that effect, today we'll be talking about the graphic novel, The Losers, which also has the movie that we're going to touch on later. And now I know it says don't bet against them, but my first impression I'm going to give you guys is I wish I bet against this. And I didn't vote for us to read this because this was utter and complete trash. But Dave, since you love this so much, I would love for you to give our listeners your elevator pitch for this as someone who came up with the idea, and you went up to your CEO and said, "Hey, I have this fantastic idea for for this graphic novel that I would like for us to start selling at the company."
All right. So I'd walk. I'd be like,
I'm like, here's the table set for you, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I feel probably a big nervous wreck. Be like, man, I haven't thought of a good idea in a really long time. People at work are thinking I'm a loser. I'd be running to the
for lack of no pun intended.
Something, you press the CEO, right? Get in there sweating and be like, boss, I have an idea. It's like, what is it this time? I'd be like, so I have an idea. It's gonna be 5 random agents who get double crossed and framed for this crappy thing that happens in the past, but we don't know what it is. We're just gonna keep it a secret so that, like, people are kind of curious about it. And like, okay, but people have done this before. What's gonna make it different? I'm like, I'm gonna add sex appeal. I'm gonna add a random chick in there who's gonna be a bloodthirsty, crazy person that you're not gonna know her background for like a really long time. He's like, okay, and who's the bad guy? I'm like, oh, you're not gonna know the bad guy. Does he have a name? Sure, it could be Max. Yeah, it'll be Max. And like, okay, is that it? No, we'll also throw in a Wade there. Why Wade? I mean, Deadpool's popular, so I'll just throw in the name Wade. It's like, okay, and why am I reading this? They're like, well, because we're making it. He's like, doesn't sound like a really good idea. I'm like, yeah, I mean, they are a bunch of losers. He's like, yeah, it's a catchy name. Go with it. Yeah, I got my job. That's it. That's how good this was.
And I'm assuming your name is Jock in all this, right? Because that sounds like an idea from someone named Jock. I can't believe that.
Like, share, my name's only Dick.
Lord
Diggle, Arrowverse. This is an insult to Diggle's name.
Yeah, I was gonna say
double shot, a double tap. That's right.
Yeah, or should we say Green Lantern? Is that who he is now?
Oh,
who knows?
We're trying to give him.
Yeah. I mean, your elevator pitch is definitely along the same lines as something I would come up with for this, because it's hard to. I'm always a fan of stories that just drop you in and you're expected to kind of like pick up the clues along the way. And then later on, maybe there's a flashback or two to kind of bring you in closer to the characters. But the first 3 or 4 issues of this graphic novel, I felt like they were writing on the fly, like coming up with the idea on the fly.
Well, do either one of you have a better elevator pitch, or?
It's this simple. Hey, boss, you ever heard of the A-Team? Well, this is a C team. Done. That's it. That's all I got. It's crazy. It's crazy how little sense this made for about 4 issues.
Yeah. No,
maybe even more than that. I was waiting because I've seen the movie. I saw the movie first.
Yeah.
And we'll touch on the movie more later on. But the movie kind of gives you a background at the beginning, which is why. When I was reading this, I was like,
you're like, oh, I understand because I've seen the movie. But if you hadn't seen the movie, you're like, what?
It was crazy confusing.
I have my pitch. I have my pitch.
Go right ahead.
I want to hear this.
So hey, boss, remember how we had this comic book during World War II called The Losers? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to take the grandson of one of the guys and write a story about him being in covert black ops and the legacy of that family being a bunch of losers continues. It's 2 generations later and this guy is still a loser and he's still being sent on the worst missions. It's just like, wait, you mean this guy has a kid and that kid has a kid and they're still losers? Yeah, man, people are really going to connect because that's what the world is right now. It's like, damn, that's really depressing. Go for it. I love it. Yeah.
It's crazy how much of a point they made to call themselves losers and all these things, and I'm like, this is unnecessary.
Yeah,
I feel whoever pitched this to the boss had to have liked like this type of stuff. Like, I think the CEO who approved this was like fired shortly after because he was also a loser.
He's a crackpot. That's what he is.
I mean, this is also like, I won't go into too much, but also we know that DC like had Vertigo, and Vertigo was kind of just this like, okay, do some cool stuff and we don't really care, we're just gonna try and make movies out of the stuff you guys make. Like just make something interesting that we can storyboard into a movie sometime later, now that we're owned by Warner Brothers. Because that's how it feels like everything that was in Vertigo at one point was meant to just be converted into some sort of feature or series or something like that.
Yeah, and what really hurt this movie, I didn't really look up any box office numbers or anything like that, was the fact that it literally came out the same year as the A-Team.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing the A-Team and then watching this, and I'm like, this is the same damn thing.
Yeah.
This thing is like, minus the well, actually, both movies have a good cast.
Yeah.
I actually think I prefer The Losers over the A-Team in the sense that the A-Team movie was just stupid corny. It was like it was very satire for people who liked that stuff.
But that's the thing. I think the A-Team was if there was the nostalgia of the A-Team for those who knew the original A-Team, whereas like I saw the A-Team and I didn't care. I just watched it. And I was just like, cool, Hannibal, crazy guy in hell, Mr. T looking dude, cool, okay. And then you watch The Losers, and I was just like, I actually like The Losers more because I didn't feel like the movie had to try to live up to anything, even though it was trying to technically live up to a comic book.
It should have tried to live up to some kind of standard, is what I'm trying to say. but it didn't.
I guess we know which direction this episode's going in on Toby's side.
He's not that mysterious in regards to his reviews.
Yeah.
No, I wear my heart on my sleeve, man.
Yeah, man, he's coming out.
I'll let you know. There was definitely, speaking of movies, and we could touch on it a bit later on, there was a weird offshoot sequel to The Losers. You guys don't think?
The movie-wise or the comic book?
Movie-wise.
Which
I remember thinking this at the time, and then rewatching the movie the past couple of days.
Are you talking about Star Trek?
No. Wait, that's so far off. But hold on.
Because Zoe Saldana and Idris are in the third Star Trek movie together.
So it has to do with Zoe.
Okay.
Aisha.
Columbia?
Yes, it's the same damn background.
Oh, interesting.
Parents killed by terrorists, and then she becomes a killer of her own.
Yeah,
same background, but instead of using the same character, she made and Colombiana came out 2011.
Yeah,
so you do The Losers with the character with the same background, sort of like a training ground, because you knew this movie would be trash. So you can take that skill and bring it. Because she looks the same in both movies, so it must have been filmed around the same time. So she just did both of them back to back. It was simple. She didn't have to memorize too much, probably, because they were the same kind of role. You know what I mean? She's
like saying the lines from the other movie on set.
I'm telling you, and they're like, "Oh, great improvisation, Zoe." And then you go back and you watch the movie, and it's the same.
like Colombiana, she's like, "No, Aisha, yes."
The director's like, "Hey, man, she just did like a full monologue that's not in the script. Where did that come from?"
yeah. I think her name was Catalia or something in Colombiana. But I was just watching this, like, and the differences we can talk about this later on. I was gonna say the differences between her character in the graphic novel and in the Losers movie, or there's also a stark difference.
Very, very different. But we'll get. So then, okay, so I think we all realize that either the person pitching or the person accepting the pitch was drunk in that elevator. So to get into the meat of things, so The Losers is really simple. I mean, not simple. You know what's weird? You guys already said it, but it really was easier following this book after you watched the movie, which leads me to believe this wasn't a really well-written book. Because I read it, and I was like, I would have definitely been lost for like the first 3 or even 4 comics.
That's what I'm saying. Four issues or so, yeah.
But essentially, you're able to figure out that there's at least 5 guys: Clay, Pooch, Rourke, Cougar, and Jensen, who are on the run in some shape or form from something that happened in the past. They're trying to clear their names. You don't have any idea what you're trying to clear, and you know that the only thing you really know is that Pooch has a family. That's the only thing you really know about any of them, and that he would like to see his family, and that Jensen's just this like kind of IT smartass.
Yeah, man,
like it's even a lot of character development, to be quite honest. Like the only one that's a character development like how it's supposed to be is Cougar, in the sense that he's supposed to be quiet. The rest, it's just a lot of dialogue.
There was no character development. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, like I didn't think there was any.
Zero for any of them. There was nothing there was nothing sort of attaching me or nothing to hold on to with these characters at all. I didn't care who died. I didn't care who lived. I just wanted it to move on so I could understand.
Yeah, like the only one that even gave a resemblance to having any type of emotion was Jensen, in the sense that he was always being funny. I guess you could say that Clay, huh?
I said that's emotion. That's
Well, I mean, it's like that at least he's feeling something. He's able to make fun of a scenario or to be like, he's the only vibrant one out of the team, right? Like, the only thing that you get.
It's a little tryhard, and it comes across way more in the movie than in the graphic novel, how much of a tryhard he is. In the movie, he was just nonstop trying to crack a joke about everything.
Yeah, I hated. Honestly, that was one thing when I was reading the comic book, and I was thinking back to the movie. I was just like, I don't hate Jensen as much as I do reading it. I also felt that the characters weren't really new characters. It felt like tropes of everyone that had already existed. The smart alecky IT guy is always the same smart alecky IT guy. They're either that version or they're the mouse who doesn't speak and it's just like a huge computer nerd who's just like tickety tack 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 tickety tack. Yeah. Whereas, or the other side is just a guy who just cracks jokes all the time. And then you had the snake eyes. You know, you have.
Yeah, that Cooper being Snake Eyes, exactly.
It's literally Snake Eyes. It's just like without the mats. It's just
Snake Eyes. It's cowboy Snake Eyes. It's Mexican cowboy Snake Eyes.
But not only that,
mixed with like, a little bit of Black Noir.
Yeah, but that's it. It's just Snake Eyes. It's just that character who doesn't talk and speaks through his weapon, and that's it all the time. And you're like. And originally that character was supposed to be mysterious and interesting, but I find that trope so boring now that when I see a character like that, I don't care. I don't want to know your backstory. The whole thing about like, you know, I mean, it's a movie reference, but in the movie, it's like, don't touch my hat. It's like, okay, sure. The hat has some sentimental value as to why, you know, someone's trying to take it off your head. You're willing to get shot in the head to protect the hat. Even though this guy wants to shoot you in the head and take the hat off your head anyways.
There was no explanation about the attachment either, right?
Like stuff like that. Like I don't care. Like, and that's the thing. In the comic book, there's no character development for some of these characters. Like
I think
Roke, you understand why Roke is the way Roke is, because Roke is pretty fair throughout the whole series. Roke pretty much always stands by the fact that he thinks this is a bum deal. He doesn't like the way things are playing out. He's always pointing out to them that this doesn't look right. And then you realize, I mean, in the movie, it's one thing. In the movie, he's just annoyed, and that leads to anger and him just being angry towards Clay. In the comic book, you realize that was a diversion, right? The comic book, he's kind of playing the whole thing of like, this seems like a weird deal. I don't like this. And it's just like, oh, because you're, I mean, can I say it? It's just like, you're in on it. You were two-timing them the whole time, and you were just trying to get them into a situation so that you could screw them over and flip on them.
Yeah, he was playing devil's advocate to cover his trails, basically.
Yeah.
And Clay's the typical jaded, I was supposed to be the leader and I screwed up my team. Then you have Aisha, who I actually think is really interesting in the comic book in the sense that, like, you find out that she is not some type of CIA operative, but she's actually someone who was like more or less orphaned at a young age and was mentioning how she was collecting human ears and stuff.
Oh yeah, okay, sorry.
And then, you know, said that she killed her first men or blew up her first tank at like 12 years old or whatever. And all this
Here's my problem with everything that you're saying right now is that it's all hearsay, and I don't believe a word she's saying because she just wants to sound crazy, is what it sounds like to me. The moment she starts speaking about like her body count and stuff like that in the graphic novel, I'm like, okay, I guess you're just saying it to be scary, but nothing about her made me feel like she was that imposing.
Yeah.
Or threatening.
When you see her fight the the human traffickers, you get an idea of her ability.
Sure.
At least. Like you get an idea that she's a lethal weapon in her physical sense.
I get a sense that she knows how to handle herself. Do I think she stole people's ears, ate a dog, and blew up tanks at 12? There's a very big difference between someone taking down 3 human traffickers who are trying to pitch a bad deal and trying to renegotiate so that it's like, oh, we already paid to get here. Yeah. That was the old deal, but you can pay in other ways. It's like, okay, so she doesn't like guys who take advantage of women. Gotcha. Now she takes out these 3-4 guys. Cool story. That's completely different from I took people's ears as a child and
what's
blew
the point? You're a psychopath now then. Why are
Like,
you
I
on
just-
this mission? You're a liability. You're gonna get us all killed because you're wild and you're crazy. And you're like,
She is wild and crazy. Even when they tell her to stay back on one of the missions, she ends up showing up, right?
yeah. Well, I
Makes
mean,
her look like she's
that
double.
was that was important though, because they're trying to explain to her, hey, you're still you're still actually in the organization. We can't have you just show up, because if you're spotted, it burns you and we can't use you as our contact. There's like a logical reason to why she needed to not be there, which she ultimately ignores. Like, why, if she had a plan that she could execute with them and be like, I can get through the front door, no problem. Why don't I just go in? And that takes away a whole bunch of risk, as opposed to you delivering Jensen in a box for him to not wake up, but come out of a box inside the base, open the door that these other guys snuck in through. Like, why do all that? Like,
yeah, I actually completely forgot as I was reading this. She is still in the in the
yeah,
organization.
that's
Yeah.
the
How
whole
is
thing.
she this crazy?
Yeah.
How many psych evals did she fail? That's that's what that's what oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's
dude,
crazy.
the fact that she's in, that's one of the things that I did like. I mean, I won't compare the comments of the movie too much because we're gonna do it later. But one of the things I didn't like was the fact that her whole reasoning behind doing all of this was like, oh, I'm still in the CIA, and there's like things we need to figure out. I don't trust it. I need you guys to help me. I'm working with you. Let's do this. I can't be burned though, because you need me to pump like the second issue where they're all getting antsy and Roke's asking like, I don't trust this girl. And it's just like, yeah, but she's an agent. She still has to go out on missions. We can't have her just disappear for extended periods of time. And Roke seems annoyed that she's out there doing missions. It's like, dude, it's her job. If she didn't, that would flag all the alarms. Why did this agent disappear? Where is she? What is she doing? Like, she's CIA, but is she on a mission? Because if she's not on a covert mission and disappears, doesn't that seem weird to them? She still has to answer to somebody. But Roke, I think Roke, at least from what I read, maybe Roke was concerned she could figure out who he was. So maybe that's why he didn't trust her. Because I mean, if he,
that's the
if he
thing.
was
Like,
up-
you're making excuses. Okay,
I
think
am,
about this.
I am,
If you
100%.
didn't watch the movie, for example, and you're reading this and you're seeing their conflict and the way they're back,
Yeah,
you wouldn't really understand what either one's motive is.
yeah,
But it makes sense though, because like if you're the mole and there's someone who's blatantly looking like the mole, you would definitely try and avert people's eyes from you to be like, no, it's that one. And she was making it very, or at least how they wrote her, she was making her very like a likely candidate to be doing that.
Okay. She's not part of the original group. It's easy to put a target on her to make it look like, oh, this person may have been. Okay,
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see
And
that.
she's being mysterious, so like at the same time, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Was she being mysterious? Again, like Toby was saying, half the stuff she said didn't seem mysterious as much as like she's just painting herself as a psychopath so that you don't mess with her. Like I didn't find Aisha mysterious.
No,
Aisha,
I didn't either.
Yeah, like again, Cougar, Aisha, and Roke are three characters that at no point did I want to know more about them. I didn't.
Nope.
No.
I didn't. Clay was the only reason I kind of wanted to know more about Clay is because he's the leader. The only reason I want to know more about Pooch is because you find out there's a family. So you're like, okay,
I
you
didn't
guys
care
are
enough, to be honest. I'm surprised
yeah.
you did.
I meant in the sense that you've put breadcrumbs, so I would actually like to see you develop, or sorry, you planted seeds. I'd like to see you bring something out of that, as opposed to just planting a seed and not watering it and leaving it in the dark. He has a family. Cool. Is that his motivation? Is that where his character gets his? Because
you said the key word.
Yeah.
Motivation.
Yeah.
I do not understand anyone's motivation in this.
Yeah.
I get that you were double crossed.
Yeah, you're on the death
on
list.
the mission, but why? What was the reason? Why am I, someone dropped into your world right now, expected to believe your motivation for going after all these people like you are? I think when they were actually making the movie for this, they were thinking the same thing we are, like, hey, we need to make this, like, put some substance behind these empty characters. And I don't even know why they picked this to begin with to make, but I think I understood from what you said before. Vertigo was kind of like that, kind of like, let's churn out some material that we can turn
That's
into.
how it felt to me. That's how it always felt to me.
Yeah, I definitely see that, especially in this case here, where you just had, there's a world made up, but the actual reason for the world existing didn't exist before the movie.
Yeah,
in my opinion. This was very empty calories. Like
I found this one to be very like a pinball game. You were just like bouncing around from random information to random information.
Random, and then they drop a random villain, and I don't know, and you're like, what?
Who the fuck is Wade?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like they
what's funny is I actually, before we got to Wade, I thought the first guy we met in the limousine, was Wade at first.
Let me see if I can. Yeah, because there's that agent who seems to be working. Yeah, this agent seems to be working, and there's some guy in the car, and he tells him, let's reach out to Parsec. And Parsec is like this paradigm security syndicate or something. I don't remember. But Paradigm Security is this like covert operation, because as soon as Pooch finds out about Parsec being involved, that's when, and that's the thing, I think that's one of the reasons that, again, Pooch was a character that I found slightly interesting, because he's the one that knows about, and I guess Clay knows him too, but at the moment when Aisha tells them that Parsec's involved, Pooch is the one that goes into the full detail of, oh, these are guys we don't want to mess with. They're really bad. We saw them, do this, that, and the other thing. You can't trust them. Then later on, Clay doubles down on that, and it's just like, yeah, these guys were sent in there to wipe out a full native village so that they could get the oil, get the land for the oil, even though they were supposed to be there to protect people. And you're like, Jesus, like, these guys sound like monsters. But I agree. If you guys are watching this, the panel that Toby has up right now, and if you're listening, we recommend you read the comic book. You'll see what we're talking about. In the second issue, there's a panel where Wade, the first time you introduced to him, he kills some guy on a field.
While they're was it paintball or some kind of military?
He brings out a real gun after he gets blatantly shot, and the guy's bitching at him like, "Why aren't you pretending you're dead?" And he's like, "Fuck you," and kills him blatantly.
But then you find out later why this murder was important, like why we needed to see this exact moment, because they make reference to it later, as in, like, I took out everyone who knows about this, and that's the guy that he's taking out. Was that interesting? Did it make me feel more connected? Did I need to see the panel? If Wade just showed up and mentioned he took out people, I would have been fine. I didn't need a panel of him murdering someone for them to establish what kind of, again, their big thing in this comic book is everyone's a psycho.
Yes, thank you. They're trying to establish a world where these guys are the craziest and gnarliest people you've ever met in your life, and they do things without reason. And that's the problem. Without reason. These panels that are in front of us right now were without reason. There was no point for us seeing him shooting someone during paintball.
Yeah. Well, it's okay to be crazy without reason, but there's a way to do it though, right? Like, for example, if you go back to Cougar, and we made the comments, there's a lot of people like Cougar, Snake Eyes, or Black Noir. But, like, for example, if we would compare Cougar to Black Noir, they're essentially the exact same thing. Quiet guy, you're supposed to look cool, and
the Boba Fett
attention. But Black Noir is a way of doing it where it's actually interesting, because the few nuances of what he's doing is creating an attraction.
That's fair.
Whereas Cougar, it's just like, it just poses with guns. That's all that Cougar really has. It just poses with guns. And, like, cool, nice story, but can you do something to give me to think you have a personality beyond the gun? Because then Cougar isn't the character, the guns are.
Yeah. See, you're right. The subtle things that Black Noir does, where he, like, doesn't speak and hand, like, when Black Noir hands a piece of paper to someone and then doesn't speak, and the person says, "Okay, I can get to this later," and he just stands there, the person understands you have to do it now. If Cougar came up to somebody and put a gun to their head, and it's just like, okay, like, I find something like what Black Noir does more intimidating than the gun to the head with Cougar, because I don't like Cougar doesn't seem like that much of a threat as a character. He just doesn't say anything. He just seems psychotic. Whereas Black Noir, that seems like it might actually lead to something dangerous. Like I get, with Cougar, I get shot once, I'm gone. With Black Noir, I might get tortured for days. I don't know. And that's the difference there that I'm like, okay, I see why this character is more interesting.
But I also found with this, in retrospect, the comic book, not the movie, but the comic book, I found that I was like, let's try, because the art was nice. Like some of the visuals were nice, but I found that they were like, let's just, if I was the writer, I'm like, I know these, or if I'm the artist, I know these characters are cool in my brain, but let's just put a bunch, but everyone's going to know that they're cool because of like how I'm drawing them or how we're presenting them. So we're just going to put a bunch of fluff. Like there was fluff everywhere. There was action scenes that were fluff. There was the dialogue. 50% of the dialogue did not need to be there. Like that, like
you're being generous by saying 50.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep at times. I remember when I read it originally, I was there. I'm like, fuck, can we finally get to something? Because like, oh, the government is a jackass, and then 3 pages of explaining why. Yeah, I know. I don't. I'm alive. I know the government's screwing people over. I don't need you to like explain like, oh, well, they did this for 5 panels, and that's how they're selling heroin. And because of this 5 panels later, that's how they have money. No shit. You could have just said they sell heroin and they have money because of it. It could have been done in a panel, but they decide to elongate it in these really boring, long dialogues.
Like, I think the most interesting scene is the panel that I'm on right now, and I think when they made the movie, they're like, this will be the big attraction. This scene right here where
describe it for people, because remember, if the listeners are listening, they won't.
So the scene I'm talking about is, if you've seen the movie, there's a scene where Jensen, played by Chris Evans, goes to this office building. This guy's a courier, then goes in an elevator to change into, I guess, a technician outfit. In the movie, the elevator he gets into actually stops a couple floors up with some women. The doors open up and there's some office ladies looking at him, and he's naked from pretty much the waist down. You're supposed to believe that he's naked from the waist down by their reaction. But they didn't, like, it wasn't real, like a real reaction, in the sense that like they weren't shocked or anything. They immediately go to the ooh, penis kind of like reaction.
That was a throwback to Fantastic Four. Join me.
Was it?
Think about it.
Sure, but it still sucked.
Yeah,
like,
it was terrible.
It's the same exact joke.
But it's not good. That's the thing. Like, you did the joke once, and then you're doing the joke, and it's like, no, it's worse the second. Like, guys,
it was pretty bad. It was like in bad taste almost.
Like, do what you in the comic book. It was done well. He gets in, he presses hold, he makes the call, he unlocks the elevator, he goes up. Bong. You didn't need a panel. You didn't need a scene where 4 women see the elevator and his potential penis. Do you like the angle of my dangle? Shut the fuck up. Like, I saw that, and I almost skipped. I was already watching this movie at 1.25 and then was gonna skip, because I was like, stuff like this, like when you're talking about filler in the comic book where Clay talks for 5 pages about Iran Contra, in the movie the equivalent is stuff like that. All the little stupid filler for the slight joke that no one wanted from Jensen.
Because I get it. Because that's the thing. There was just so little to pull from that was coherent in the comic book that they felt like we needed to amp it up even more. Like a scene like this didn't need more amping. So after he goes and gets into the office, he gets into, I forget whose office now, but someone's office too.
In the comic book, it's the security firm that has the layout for where the Goliath International is keeping the information that he needs to get.
But that was the same thing in the movie.
Yeah, in the movie, he was trying to get the code. He has the drive, and he needs to unlock it with the cipher key.
Oh, right. So that's what he was going in there for. Yeah. I guess they didn't have to change. There's some unnecessary changes.
Yeah.
But anyway, he gets trapped in trying to accomplish this mission. After he accomplishes mission, he gets sort of cornered by 4 security guards, and he's in front of a glass window with these security guards pointing a gun at him with his Jensen's back to the window, and he kind of just sticks his hands out like pistols and goes, I am dangerously telekinetic. And what I also realized is they kept the damn words in the movie. They should have just changed some of these dialogues around in the movie, and it would have made them more interesting. I just found like the dialogue was so stale, especially the scene where, I'm going back a little bit now, we'll come back to this, but there was a scene where where they hijacked the helicopter, and then he goes, "You've been chopper jacked." I was like, oh,
yeah,
stop. Yeah, he literally in the movie says, "You've been chopper jacked." I was like, that's kind of lame. I go to the graphic novel, it's the same line. I was like, no.
Like, for the line from the comic book, because the comic book he says, you know, people get carjacked. Well, you've been chopper jacked.
Yeah,
at least there's a delivery in the comic book, whereas the movie is just really random.
It's so bad though. That's such a bad line. Chopper jacked.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he pretends he has telekinesis and shoots his pistol, his hand pistol at one of the guards, and he goes down. And later on, we find out that Cougar is on the like across the street on some tall building shooting a sniper rifle. And anyway, I thought that was probably the coolest scene in this whole. And then they try to and then there's another scene later on where Colombiana comes in to try to save them, because they got captured at the Goliath Freeport. Is it a Freeport or port?
Port, yeah. The Port of Miami in the movie.
I love that you have absolutely difference between the two movies that you didn't even bother calling her Aisha. You're like, Colombiana.
Yeah, no, it's the same. It's the same character. She shows up, and in the graphic novel, when she shows up to save them, she's shooting people first, and then she blows something up with a bazooka.
Yeah.
In the movie, she literally just shows up with a bazooka and blows something else entirely up away from the culprits and the prisoners. So she just blows something up like randomly close to them.
And I wondered when she did that, I was just like, was that your distraction?
Yeah.
Like, if so, why not do it slightly closer? Because she did it so far that it didn't even. It's not like you threw them back. You could have just ignored it. Like, you could have just been like,
all right,
hitting them.
Yeah, they would have just finished executing them anyway and then gone after her. Like the way it went down was
clap and let's go after her. Like,
yeah. So there was just like missteps. They took some of the good things from the graphic novel and kind of fleshed it out a little bit, like giving us a story up front at the beginning of the movie so we understood the plot. But then they take scenes like this where it needs to make more like it actually made sense in the graphic novel, and then they changed something that took away from the common sense in it, which is like Aisha showing up, instead of shooting the people first and then blowing something up, she just has a bazooka and blows a random vehicle up somewhere. And then they're like, oh my God, it's blown up. What do we do now? It's so,
I'd say, but like, the thing though is like in this whole, I mean, we read 6 issues of this. I think there was only honestly 2 interesting scenes. One being the telekinesis, and the only other scene, and I think it's the only reason why I thought it was interesting was because it was the only thing in 6 issues that was actually different other than the telekinetic part was Clay and Wade's fight is actually very brutal, and I think it starts in the 5th issue and ends in the 6th.
Yeah.
And it's just cool because they have a brutal fight. It is actually brutal. It's very well drawn and executed. And then Wade goes flying into so they're fighting, and they're fighting eventually with cars. They're doing like a chase, and then Clay makes Wade's car crash, which results in Wade flying into the engine of the plane that Rourke is trying to escape on.
Yeah.
Which was a really cool fight, which then leads to the end of the comic book, which is you find out that ship with that plane with the money is destroyed, but Rourke is still alive, and then that's when you find out that Max is really Max, because at the end Rourke is calling his informant, and Max is like, stop being so formal. Just call me Max.
Yeah.
In which case, at that point in time, I'm like, so you took 6 issues of a comic book to do something what you probably could have done in 3, and because you didn't do, as we said, there's no real character development. There's some personalities given, but again, no real strong. Like it's not even personalities. There's reaction to things. That's it. Like there's not a lot
of. What was that? You cut out a little bit there. What was that?
I'm just saying there's.
It wasn't personality. Yeah.
It wasn't personality. It was just reactions. Like
they're animals.
You realizing that Mark is a bad guy was a reaction to you finding out he was double crossed. And that's the only real character development you get.
You know what? I'll say one thing. Wade in the comic book is more interesting than Wade in the movie, but only because you can tell they didn't care about Wade in the comic in the movie. Like in the movie, he's a henchman. In the comic book, he seems to be actually in the know about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the movie, he just works for Max. He's Max's man in the field. You have throwaway scenes where like they do such weird things. Get me a fire team of 18 people in 12 hours. You have that whole thing where he says it 3 times. Then the next time he talks to him about the fire team, he's just like, kill the fire team. What? Why?
Yeah.
Why did we even have the scene where you wanted him to get a fire team to take out Clay if you're going to just turn around and tell him to kill the fire team? And then again, with the whole trying to be comedic, do you know any of them? Well, one of them is my brother-in-law. I said, I'll take care of it. I don't care. I don't care that you're willing to kill your sister's or brother's husband. I don't care. It wasn't interesting. You didn't make that more interesting. You didn't make that more fun. The one fun thing that I thought was when Wade said, I'm from Quebec. And I was just like, cool.
Ugh.
I was like, okay.
I hated that so much.
That he's from Quebec?
I hated. It was just so unnecessary. It was just, ugh.
In the comic book, Wade is just, he's just a psycho. And that's the thing. I feel like this movie the series and the movie should have been called The Psychos and not The Losers. Because that's the point. You weren't trying to write a story about losers. What makes them losers more so than the A-team? What makes them losers?
That's what I'm saying. I didn't in both the movie and the graphic novel understand the losers concept.
Yeah.
There was nothing that made them seem like losers. It just made them seem like a bunch of discombobulated human beings.
Yeah.
That don't know what they're just going on instinct and running on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So the next mission. They're just used to actions. That's all they want.
They're as much losers as I could say Denzel's character is in The Equalizer.
Yes. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You're like, what makes you a loser? The fact that you can't be in normal society because you are part of a black ops co-op, like whatever these secret organizations, espionage, spy world, so you can never lead a normal life. Because that's all of them, buddy. You're not special. Your team isn't more special than the other black ops people who don't get to go home if a mission goes sideways and now has to live in some ghetto in Bolivia. There's nothing better about you. They're all losers. That's so, why did we focus on you guys? And that's why, like, our elevator pitch at the end, you realize it's just like, well, they just wanted to pick these guys and they just wanted to slap a name that sounded cool in 2000 and whenever they wrote this. And to be honest, it doesn't sound cool. Like, Losers doesn't make me think I'm reading an interesting title. I also don't hear
the Losers title is not a winner when you're walking through a comic book shop,
Yeah, like there was nothing. Yeah, like you said, how well did this comic do? And if I walked into a comic book shop and I saw a comic book called The Losers before I even knew what the Losers were, let's say I didn't know about the original run during World War II. I'm completely fresh. I walk into a comic book shop. I'm looking for something that's not superhero based. I walk in and I look. The Losers is not the title I'm picking up. There's nothing on that cover that would have made it look more interesting to me. First issue is the one with Aisha, right? On the cover with her legs slightly spread and the guys through her legs.
Yeah.
That's like
That sounds so much more explicit than it actually was.
Yeah, she's wearing clothes, but like, think
and the
about,
guys are through her legs.
yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, think about, you walk into a comic book shop. If that was the cover, I'm looking at the shelf. I'm in my local shop. I see the cover for Descenders. I see the cover for Coyotes, Empress, all these other comics we've talked about where we've read the first. We see Saga, and then I see the Losers. Why on earth would I pick that up? There was nothing on that cover that made it look more appealing. And the Vertigo name didn't carry any weight. And I it just felt like they're losers.
100%. I think we were probably, I think a lot of people had the same feelings as we did, because this movie's kind of middling. It's around the 50% mark on a lot of ratings.
Yeah.
In terms of the movie. Now, the graphic novel, though, I think we're alone in the fact that we see so many flaws in it, and it's got about 4 to 5 stars in a lot of places.
Well, I mean, who knows? Because if you go like, because I won't lie, when I saw because we read up to 6, I actually went to the last few issues just to skim by them. It seems that it develops a lot, but like,
yeah, that's the thing.
When I was reading it, I know what the conclusion. I know who survives or whatever, but I was still like very like.
I mean, I looked up who Max is because I was like, in the movie you find out who Max is. In the comic book they don't reveal it, so I was just like, who's Max then? So I looked it up and I was just like, Max is a set of twins. What? Okay.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I spoiled that for you. I'm sorry if you're a listener and you were like, oh, I can't wait to read this horrible comic. I just saved you maybe 32 issues so far at about $4 a pop. I saved you some good money. You're welcome.
I'll say this out loud. Only, and big spoiler, so if you want, go away. Only Jensen and Pooch survive in the end. And they still, some mysterious person still tries to drag them back into what they were doing, and they're like, "No." It's really funny.
Unreal. Wait, past issue 6?
Yeah, like I read the last two issues of the entire series because I want to know what happened, and everyone dies. It doesn't even sound like it makes sense because it sounds like by this point it sounds, with the exception of Jensen, Pooch, and Cougar, it kind of sounds like everyone's double crossed each other at this point. And then I'm like, this, I don't like. I was reading them, I'm like, even being surprised, I'm like, I'm not surprised enough to want to read backwards at all. It's not at all.
The whole point of this comic is to try and make espionage and military work together and look cool, and it didn't succeed. I don't want a Bond comic book where everyone's Americanized.
Yeah.
It's not interesting. Of course they're all going to turn on each other. Once Rogue turned, I'm sure Aisha and Clay's connection. First of all, I don't know if they're sleep in the comic book. There really does not appear to be any sexual tension. It doesn't play up that way to me at all in the comic book. Maybe if you guys read it differently, that's fine. But
zero. Matter of fact, the sexual tension in the movie was out of place.
Oh,
I didn't even. I was watching. I was like, what? How is she? What's the point? What?
Yeah. When she sleeps with him, that time when she walks in, it's like, but why?
What's the point of this?
You could tell the director just wanted to get Zoe Saldana to do a sex scene, where she's not she's in her first of all, she's not naked. She's in her underwear, topless, and he's just and it's just cuts of them gyrating and touching. It wasn't attractive. It didn't add to the movie. You know, when they say sex sells, that didn't sell. You didn't do anything. No. It wouldn't have worked anyways because it would have been so out of place if you had an actual sex scene. Even if you had the most graphic sex scene in the movie, it would have been so poorly placed, it wouldn't have made your movie better.
So I'm going to read you a couple reviews here that kind of back up a lot of the critics had a lot along the same lines as we were this time around. What's that?
For the comic book or the movie?
Well, I'm going to do the movie right now because he was just talking about that point. So we were talking about how the Losers just didn't make sense to us as a title or as a team. And Scott Tobias of the AV Club complained about the lack of humility and self-deprecation in the heroes despite their title. So the film apparently tries so strenuously to be cool, and it just falls short of falling in line with the title. Like, we're supposed to believe these guys are losers, but there's no loser quality about them, right? They're just they just know everything, and they have a plan for everything, and they have hookups. Like, losers, you're supposed to be like dejected, and you're at the end of your rope, and you guys are doing everything on your own, and it's just.
And the funny part is they skipped that in the movie, because in the movie they jumped the 2 years.
Yeah.
If you'd shown us the 2 years and started the movie, like the first movie is immediately after, and them being actual losers, considered dead, and having to live in Bolivia in a ghetto, trying to figure out how to get back stateside, and dealing with whoever takes over, the power vacuum that comes from them killing Fadhil or whatever the guy's name was. That would have been an interesting movie and a prequel, and then you make this Max story the sequel.
Yes.
Not even 2 years. It's only 2 months.
It's 2 months in the movie, it says? 4 months? Oh, I thought it said 2 years later.
Because Pooch's wife.
Oh, she was pregnant.
Oh, she's pregnant.
And then he's like, in 4 months, she should know the sex of the baby.
How crazy is this, by the way, that you just said it's 2 years later? I agreed with you, because I completely phased out that whole portion of the movie. It was just not that interesting. And you were talking before about how the graphic novel, the only characters that made sense to you to kind of follow was Pooch and Jensen, and Pooch because of the family aspect. And then they actually thought of that for the movie, and it still didn't add any substance to his back. It just
the guy who worked out the script for the movie was just like, okay, so the only people you guys gave me that I could work with family wise to make people feel connected to are Pooch and Jensen. And he looked at what they wrote in a comic book. Okay, Pooch has kids. Okay, we'll work a pregnancy, and people really love a pregnant wife. Cool. War-torn pregnant wife. Oh, you didn't find the ring? Okay, I know something's wrong. That was the hint, right? The wife knows that Pooch isn't actually dead because the ring's not there. You kind of get
that was it. But that was it.
Yeah, that's it. You never see
that's her involvement until the end of the movie,
where she says, not freaked out when he walks in, even though he's supposed to be dead. She says, "Where have you been?"
While she's giving birth. And it was the calmest, and she smiled, and they were like a happy reunion.
Yeah,
and he said, what did he say? What was his excuse?
Because of traffic.
He's been
traffic. I'm late because of traffic. And she laughs, and the doctors are all like, all right, let's get the what? This is a wanted guy who snuck in to the hospital around what? I'm assuming midnight in the rain in the middle of the storm.
And up like through a window, covered in he's soaking wet because it's raining outside. Comes into this clean room where this woman's supposed to be potentially delivering. Even if she's waiting to go into delivery, you still shouldn't have someone dirty from outside just walking around, touching up her hand.
Who walks straight up to her and kisses her stomach.
Yeah.
In the middle of everything, so we have to disinfect everything again.
But again, the script writer was probably just like, I got to pay out for the little bit of character development we made. So let's pay out with he sees his kid being born, and then let's pay out with, we talked about this soccer team a couple times. Let's have a scene with the soccer team, the Petunias. Got to have the Why? Look, your movie has been about a movie that has someone thrown into the engine of a plane and blown up should not also have a scene where a family gathering at a fucking soccer game is the final scene. You see that how ridiculous the juxtaposition of those two things are in one movie.
But that's him being a loser, though. That's him. That is Jensen being a loser at that moment.
Sure.
Over in
soccer dad, I guess they're losers. You know what
I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you guys want to jump into a segment before I guess we finalize our comparison of the movie, because we've been kind of doing it a little bit along the way?
Yeah, let's do that's non-canon. Let's jump right into that because it kind of falls in line with our theme for today, which will actually, you know what? Let's do the best, favorite, worst. I apologize for that, because that one actually falls more in line, because we're going to talk about our best, our favorite, and our worst B teams or teams having to operate in secret. For example, the Losers. I don't even want to put them on this list anymore. Or Avengers West Coast, Secret Avengers, X-Force, for example. Dave, do you want to hit us with your maybe favorite?
I'll do my favorite first. My favorite is kind of like a tie, but I mean it's a tie, but it's not a tie. So the first one for me would be X-Force. My favorite being both the original X-Force being with Cable and Uncanny X-Force. And I only say a tie because X-Force was my first comic book that I bought like independently. Like I did not watch a show, or my friends weren't like, you like this character, so you'll like this. It was my first time I ever went into like, it was actually technically my second own comic book purchase as well. I remember going in and buying Wolverine 90 because it had Wolverine versus Sabretooth, this dope cover. And then I just saw this dope issue 1 of X-Force where it had all the characters on the front. And I ended up buying that and loving that story. And then I say tied with Uncanny X-Force because when I stopped reading comic books for a while, it was Uncanny X-Force, which was the team of Wolverine, Phantom X, Deadpool, Psylocke, and Archangel that actually brought me back into comic books. So that's what I would say is my favorite.
Okay. Doc, do you have a favorite?
My favorite team is the Secret Warriors. After the Skrull invasion, Nick Fury is like doesn't trust anyone, and he starts to build a team of the kids of heroes and villains. Actually, I think they're mostly villains, but he builds a team. So he has like Quake. That's where you meet Quake for the first time. You meet Druid, who's like the kid of Druid, but he's like this like overweight kid, and he's not really good. And Fury is just like cuts him from the team really early on because he can't handle it. You meet Yo-Yo. Essentially everything that every good thing about that team, Secret Warriors, was what they stole to make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. interesting. And it always actually bothered me a little bit that they did that on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because that comic book is really, really well written. The latter of it, the end, is not the best because you know Nick Fury having a twin and all this kind of stupid stuff starts to play in because they're just like, we don't know how to write this story, so let's just add some stupid shit. But the earlier parts of it were really, really solid, and you know, you get some really cool character development. You get introduced to some cool characters, and that team worked so well behind the scenes. You get Ares' son Phobos, who's like trained with a sword to like, oh man, there's so much cool stuff that happens with that team that I feel like no one paid attention to, but they were actually one of the more solid teams in the Marvel 616. So that's that's the best to me.
I didn't really, oddly enough, grow up reading a lot of team graphic novels or comic books aside from like the X-Men and the Avengers. I didn't really connect with those. I was more of the like the Spider-Man and the Batman and like the anti-hero and the Punisher, right? I was kind of like the lone wolf kind of. Even actually that kind of translates to my real life in a lot of ways. But if I had to pick a team just based off of like coolness, and honestly they really literally are a covert team, it would be the Wildcats. Because I kind of like Grifter for some reason always looked cool to me. I just thought that would be a cool concept, or even just him alone as a character to bring into a movie of his own. And I would go with the original Wildcats, which consists of, let me just pull it up here, Spartan, Grifter, Zealot, Voodoo, Maul, Warblade, Void, and Lord Amp. I think that in itself, and they have a pretty decent background. I think we touched on Wildcats here not too long ago.
We did when they did that bad. Well,
yeah, with the aliens and
like it was an okay concept, but poor execution.
Could have been better. So I would definitely. What's that?
He couldn't draw legs. We were like making fun of how he drew.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ideas and characters. It's just that, like, yeah, his artwork is horrible for sure. And then the story that we read also wasn't one of the greatest. But I think there's a lot of potential here for this to be something bigger than what it is. And it just takes someone to dig up this team. So in terms of my favorite outside of what I already know, I would have to go with the Wildcats for sure.
Oh, is that your best also?
Did I say?
But we were supposed to do favorites.
That was favorite first. Yes.
Oh, we were supposed to say favorites. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Best favorite worst. So I thought.
Yeah, I understand. I just kind of I flipped it a little bit there. So who would be your favorite then if you went with your best, Doc?
My favorite would be Hit Girl and Big Daddy.
Nice.
Damn, that's a good one. I might have to go with best.
Yeah,
in my opinion, because I had a lot of fun watching that and reading.
Yeah,
it.
Like when you read the comic book or when you see it in the movie, they translated well. It's always funny because Nicolas Cage wants to play Superman so bad. Like we've always talked about that.
And he ends up playing Batman.
He ended up playing Big Daddy, which is like the least Superman based character, somewhat of a really poor man's Batman, but did it so well. And in the comic book, Big Daddy is like such an interesting character, and Hit Girl turns into like this wild, like she's like, man, a comic book writer's dream where you're just
she is Aisha.
Yeah,
but just actually real and well developed.
Yeah, she probably actually collected ears, like weapons training. She's eaten a dog in the field because Big Daddy left her out there alone once, and a dog tried to kill her, and she ate it. Yeah. Like those stories sound like something that when you read Hit Girl, you could be like, this makes sense because Big Daddy put her through these insane trainings. And then when she goes and Big Daddy dies and she's living with the police officer guy, like that story is also cool because that guy knows how fucked up Big Daddy was and how messed up this poor girl's childhood was and is trying to stop her. Like, you don't need to be like that anymore. But she can't stop because she's just like, there's bad in the world and I want to stop it. So that's why those two characters, I would say as a team, were my favorite, and Hit Girl solo moving forward was one of the best.
Yeah.
I would say for me, since I said the favorite before, I think the best for me, and I'm only saying this because of longevity, and again, a bit of a tied answer, would be Suicide Squad and the X-Force concept, because they're the ones that over time have lasted the longest, have stayed popular the longest, keep getting renewed, at least for comic books. Yes, there was faltering in the movies, but who knows, maybe the new Suicide Squad movie is going to repair that.
The original wasn't that completely horrible.
No,
it wasn't completely horrible.
It was the Joker side story that kind of threw it off a little bit,
Yeah. But I would say that would be the best in the sense that those would be the two that are the pillars of what I think a lot of people base those type of stories on.
Yeah. No, that's I would definitely put that as my best too. Because I think again, there's just so much potential there for it to be better than what we saw in the movie offering. Because the graphic novel, the comic book, and the TV series Suicide Squads we got, whether it was cartoon or live action, were actually pretty impressive.
And Suicide Squad is better in the sense that there's actual risk that at the end of the comic someone might die.
Exactly.
Whereas like when you're reading X-Force, yes, they push the envelope. Someone might be a villain, but they don't often kill those characters in those comic books because they're usually pretty famous characters that they put together on this. This covert team is made up of like Deadpool and Wolverine, and it's like, sure, we're gonna expect these guys to die in the field, So,
I might have to co-sign you there on Suicide Squad being the best and the one with the most potential in terms of covert groups, or backdoor groups. But I want to throw up a honorable mention in Red Hood and the Outlaws.
Okay, yeah,
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent team too. But the problem with us not seeing more of this story is the fact that the whole Jason Todd Red Hood kind of storyline hasn't really fully hit its climax in the mainstream. You know what I mean? Like it's so not well known that they don't pursue that story anymore, and I think that's a huge missed opportunity.
I think he needs to have his. I think Red Hood itself, he needs to have his own book, just him, and gets back to the real roots, not chasing after
Robin,
not chasing after what's the mystical this or that did this to me. Just I'm a badass. I don't like bad guys. Let's kill bad guys. Like I think they gotta stick to that.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
once.
Yeah,
And
you
the,
could
the one thing I would suggest too, and if you're ever going to reboot the Outlaws and stuff like that, is just to kind of tone down. I've always had an issue with Starfire's sort of like the sex
overt
appeal,
sexuality.
overt. Yeah, it's just like let's tone that down a little bit because it's.
I mean, and
it's,
that's the thing. That's one of those things where people get mad at us when we say it, but you can tell at the end of the day that some of those decisions have more to do with trying to sell a comic book based on sexual appeal than good writing. And at the end of the day, the comic book didn't do well because the sexual appeal couldn't get over the fact that the writing wasn't the best. And the writers are always limited because they always have to write Starfire as this crazy sexualized character. When if you just had a regular, like when it was the run with Bizarro and who's the girl?
Archimedes knows it, isn't it?
Artemis. Sorry,
no, it's Artemis.
Artemis.
Yeah, when you have the run with Artemis and Bizarro, and you're writing those characters just as even the fact that Bizarro was getting smarter, and that Red Hood and Artemis are like in the field fighting, and there's this kind of like, I don't really trust you, but we have a joint mission. We're warriors working together, and that's the more important aspect of our relationship. That to me read better than when it was him, Starfire, and Red Arrow or Arsenal.
You know what's funny is that relaunch of it should have been called Red Hood and the Misfits.
Right? That would have been good. To be honest, that I've read both of them, and I just find the original one is it's more drama oriented in the sense that they have things that they're going through. Like Arsenal is going through a suicidal / I don't know if I'm worth anything. Jason Todd's trying to find his place in the world, and Starfire is always trying to find her place in the world while just trying to experience things. Whereas the other one, everyone's established, but it's just that we have a mission, and I have my personal mission. And as Brian said, like our personal missions just so happen to coincide.
Yeah.
It ends up building a relationship. And I also find they learn from their mistakes. Like they make Artemis sexy, but they don't make her like they make her, and even in some cases with how they draw Bizarro, because they actually draw Bizarro not so goofy looking in this one. They draw him like he's scared.
He's like a slimmed down Solomon Grundy.
Exactly, but he's still buff and stuff, right? I find the sexiness that they draw in that comic book to be more like subtle, more like, oh, this panel is art because it is destruction, but it can also be seen as sexy. Like, it's not in your face.
Yeah. So speaking of which, then just to quickly skim over this, who would we pick for our worst? Let's go through that quickly and get back to
West Coast Avengers, because they all get killed by Deadpool in like a minute. There you go. Done.
Works for me.
For me, my worst was the Illuminati. I found the Illuminati storyline in they're like as a covert team who decides they know better and then eventually realize that they don't know better, and that they can do as much as they want, but they're limited by the fact that like the Beyonder, the one above all, all those different cosmic powers actually control shit, and you little bumpkins on the planet don't mean squat in the end. And that's the thing that I've, like when I read the Illuminati, I'm just like, I like the Illuminati as a story. There was no longevity though, and there's no like detailed storytelling. And then also there's like the women of the Illuminati story that I was just like, why are we doing this? Like,
really, they did that?
Yeah, there's like one where like there's one cover where it's like Sue Storm, Madame Mask, Xavier's ex, like they all meet. I don't know, man. Like you read some of this stuff and you're just like, what is this? Like you guys are just kind of looking for things to write about. The Illuminati was a type of covert team that their covertness was counterintuitive to the universe they were trying to build, because the MCU needed, the Marvel 616 needed more trust and communication, and those guys being secretive actually led to bigger issues long term. And that I found that boring. And then like when Civil War 2 comes along and Carol is like doesn't trust Tony, yeah, some of the reasons you wouldn't trust someone like Tony and Reed Richards is because all the major male players in your universe have been secretly trying to control the Infinity Stones and have been secretly trying to control things behind closed doors for a while, and no one was aware. So it's like, why would I trust you guys? So that's why I think they were the worst.
Yeah, I can't think of a covert secret ops team that I would put as my worst, considering I have no real history there. But I will put maybe Justice League Detroit.
Oh my god!
If that's an actual team, then yeah,
it was. I think it was like Batman, Martian Manhunter,
I'm looking
Aquaman were like the leaders.
That
Yeah,
sounds
this
like
was a while ago.
team at first.
Was that?
It sounds like a solid team so far.
At first, but the storylines and the adventure, and I know they never referred to themselves as Justice League Detroit, but they were based in the. You guys remember this?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm seeing the image for it.
This is so long ago. I can't.
I thought Brian just starts giggling when he sees it.
It's just because it's the title for the article is Justice League Detroit, the failed comic behind the CW's superhero future. It's like that's rough.
Yeah, this was going to like be the era. They were so looking forward to switching things up and basing them on it was just not good at all. Anyway, so look that up if you're listening and you have no awareness of what Justice League Detroit is. I just wanted to throw that out there as a team. They're not really covert or secret in any way. I just wanted to throw that into the worst.
But it's
team.
true because
that seems horrible.
You have Vibes in it. You have Steel or Citizen or whatever his name, the character that's on Legends, Martian Manhunter, Vixen, Gypsy, Aquaman, Zatanna.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Elongated Man.
Yeah. And it just looks like a really weird team. But then it makes sense that this looks like the type of team that they were trying to build because like most of these characters are on the CW verse.
Yo, dude. And one of the reasons like there was a fallout on the team at one point was because Aquaman, who was one of the leaders, was having marital problems, so he left the team after a year to go resolve his marital problems, and then Martian Manhunter takes over for him. Just like a bunch of dumb storylines that's just unnecessary. This is what happens when you have no Superman or Wonder Woman, apparently. But
out loud though, I think if you ever get a team that's like, popular name of a team, and then it's not even the name of a country or anything, it's the name of some random ass city. Like Detroit or West Coast or something like that.
That's the failure right there.
On the wrong path. You're already like, back up, we got to change it.
Yeah, if you got to put a town.
Don't they have one with like the something Lake Avengers?
Yeah, that's it. West Coast Lake Avengers. That's the one I'm saying that got completely killed by Deadpool in one. Like, he arrives, he kicks the shit out of everybody, and then there's a girl who's like the Blob.
Big Bertha.
I think so, and she's sucking him in, and he's just like, he gets away, but he's just like, that was disgusting, and he tries to kill her right away.
That's crazy.
It's embarrassing to watch. Like, every time I've ever seen them referenced, they are a joke.
Is Doom Patrol a covert team?
Yeah, because
I
guess I would say so, because they definitely don't work in the public.
Yeah, they work in the shadows.
By the way, Dave, it's the Great Lake Avengers. Was their 2016 team.
Does it really matter though? I'll say that any Avengers team with a city after it falls under the category of garbage. Okay, like that's just great. Let's say that out loud. Not even a city. It's named after a fucking lake.
That's great. Well, there you have it, folks. If you're ever thinking about creating a team, just do not name them after a city or town or a body of water. Yeah.
Oh my God, guys! Guess where the Great Lake Avengers end up relocating to?
Seattle,
Michigan,
Detroit.
I knew it. I said Michigan.
Oh, that's rude, man. That is rude.
Oh, that's great.
That is
That's
rude.
In Detroit, bro. Nothing survives in Detroit.
That's so
That's
funny.
so rough.
That's deep at the same time. Nothing survives
Yeah.
in Detroit. All right, we're gonna switch off of this segment and move on to our next one, which would be just a quick little conversation on who did it better. Was it the movie or the graphic novel? And I think we're all kind of, based on what we've talked about before, I think we're on the same line here, unless someone has anything different to mention.
I'm definitely saying the movie did it better in the sense that I liked the movie before. Like when I first saw the movie, I liked it many years ago when I never read this. Then I read this and then I watched it and I was like, my only thought was, you casted it. I think the reason why the movie did better is because you did cast a lot of really good actors to play these characters, at least the good guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the losers, whatever.
Yeah, that villain was horrible. I'm sorry. Horrible. Max was horrible. He's like a caricature of a Bond villain.
Yeah, all horrible. But what I thought was that everyone, with the exception of Aisha, every person was like, okay, I have like a morsel here. I have nothing to work with. And I'm going to at least make the character entertaining. Mm-hmm. Like Rourke was more interesting to follow. Jensen, yes, over the top, more interesting to follow. Clay, I mean, what's his name? I forget the name. Yeah, he does a great job. I found this was like the turning point of where, this is where he started to like get that Negan vibe, I guess. So that was all well done. I find that Aisha was more interesting in the comic book.
Yes.
Because she was a completely different character in the movie, but I think they made her a different character in the movie because the character in the comic books would have not made any sense in the movie.
It would have made perfect sense because you did that in Kick-Ass. Yeah, it would have made sense to make her a psycho killer who had a background and didn't have any sexual tension and just wanted to murder because her parents was murdered. You could have made her so much more tragic. You could have made her so much more of a loser. Except she came across as this sexually appealing temptress who lures you into her bed like a siren only to chop your head off. Oh, wait, no, but she doesn't really do that. She just kind of like lets go of the grudge and let's kill everybody. And then at the end of everything, when it's all done, we'll fight each other. It's like, well, get out of here, man.
Yeah.
There was no substance to her. And I call her Colombiana because it literally looks like she took this role and went, let's make another movie out of this character where I can be psycho and a murderess, but let's not put that in this movie because we don't want it to conflict too much. I think that's what happened. They didn't want the level of, they didn't want the two characters to be confused, I guess. I wonder if it was made by the same studio.
I do give kudos though to the movie for really taking certain scenes and really imposing them in the film. While also, like, another reason why the movie did it better is because where there was a lot of holes and made you confused, the movie said, we can't do that. We're going to do this 5-minute intro of who this person is or who this person is or what this is, so that at least you can follow and not be completely freaking lost to what's going on.
I think that's, again, why the movie shines, is that where the graphic novel doesn't explain things or just kind of takes a while to get to anything, and then when it gets to it doesn't make sense. The people who made the movie was like, we'll take these good big set pieces and make our own sort of story around those. So I thought that was brilliant on that side. I mean, this is what made the movie watchable, in my opinion.
I like the movie more than the comic. I mean, reading the comic, it was one of those situations where I read it begrudgingly. Like after issue 1 and 2, I was just like, oh, I think I need to stop. And I like stopped reading and was just like, is there a way I could get past reading this? Like, could I just not read this? And then I was like, I guess
I've never wanted Cole's notes for a graphic novel more before.
Yeah. I really, really wanted something that was just I really wanted to just jump to the Wikipedia page and cheat it and just be like, I'm not going to read this. I'm just going to read the wiki. And when we do the episode, I'll pretend I read it. But no, I actually read it this morning. I like finished it and like said, okay, no, you read it, you got through it, you it sucks, tell people why, and then tell them if if ever you are in a class and for some odd reason you're doing graphic novels and your professor says, I need you to read The Losers, just do the Wikipedia and watch the movie and then go to class and fill in the rest. Don't just
This was this.
That I find kind of interesting about this movie. It was right before a lot of sorry, let me say that again. It's a starting point for a lot of these actors where their careers in certain aspects went off.
Yes.
Like it was this was like Chris Evans, like, yes, this is showing my comedy style.
But this was post Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I was gonna say he already done established stuff.
Yeah, he already did established stuff, and it was around the same time as Scott Pilgrim, I think.
Yeah.
So then right after that, he goes to Captain America.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's in the sense of like when you watch this and you see Chris Evans, you really see like that type of style that Chris Evans can bring. Like it's like he honed his stuff, whereas the guy who played Negan, he was starting to get out of like he was on what was that
Supernatural? He played the dad
doctor show. No, wasn't he on Grey's Anatomy?
I knew him from Supernaturals. He was the dad on
Jeffrey
Supernatural.
Dean Morgan was on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, he was the love interest of that blonde girl or whatever. The girl who's in 27 Dresses.
Who's that?
Katherine Heigl.
Yeah.
Oh.
I only know it because I dated a girl once and I only saw 3 episodes and I saw his dead ghost following her. I was like, this is weird.
Oh,
she has a
Grey's
breakthrough in the end.
Anatomy. Oh my god, I remember now. He was
Grey's
like
Anatomy
sick.
has
ghosts. Basically, the girl.
No, don't explain it. No one cares.
This tangent from
okay.
random day. But
yeah, sorry. I don't know why I asked.
Give me back. But no, and it's the start of Zoe's becoming essentially the new Rosaria Dawson, because this was like she got
Columbiana.
Guardians of the Galaxy right after this. There was another movie she was in.
What year does this movie come out? How late is it?
2010?
Yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy was at least 5 years after that.
Yeah. You're skipping a lot.
Columbiana afterwards. I think Columbiana might have been the Guardians. If they saw The Losers and gave her the Guardians off the strength of that, I want to. Yeah, I don't.
In the start, because you have the start before she does that. You have this. You sure the guy had Supernatural? Let me guess. Supernatural.
We can talk about any movie launching anyone's career, but I would not allow The Losers be the reason why these guys are famous. I'm sorry. Popular, but not popular. They were kind of losers in their own regard because they didn't hit the plethora yet.
I don't think I agree with that.
I'm going.
He did Fantastic Four, Dave. He did Fantastic Four, dude.
Yeah.
What year is Avatar? Zoe Saldana did Avatar, the first one, I think before
Avatar the 2009.
Okay, and when's The Losers?
2010.
2010.
So
yeah, she did Avatar before The Losers.
If anything, Dave, this was a step backwards. Like for a lot of them, this is a step backwards. Heck, it killed the actor who played Pooch. Probably killed his career.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I haven't seen his camera since. They're just like, oh, it's that kid who played Pooch.
Wasn't he?
I'm actually going to research right now if he's done anything else.
I was gonna say for some reason I was about to confuse him with what's his name in Tropic Thunder and held my tongue.
Brandon
T. Jackson. It's not though.
Yeah. No, Columbus Short was on the show with
off the yard, I think.
Oh yes.
But he was on the show with Kerry Washington, the one that was so popular, Scandal. And then he got accused of domestic violence and then got kicked off the show.
Right?
And then I don't think he ever did anything after that.
He's been in some random stuff, but nothing that would be considered his movie either, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He hasn't done anything in years.
Nope, nothing. And even then, he never really did anything that stood out.
Yeah.
Like he was in You Got Served. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
He was in Save the Last Dance. He was in War of the Worlds. I can only imagine as a dead guy.
Dave was just
like, a soldier.
They were kind of losers. It's just like, Dave, she'd done Avatar, and what's the name? Evan had done Fantastic Four. All of this is a step backwards.
failed.
Like that's probably why the movie failed, is because it was so hard to believe that these people could be losers based on what we already knew of them.
Yeah.
Right. And then on top of that, there was no substance backing up that loser quality. So it
Yeah.
just all fell short. But if we had to pick one that did it better,
My
I'd pick the
God.
movie because it made more sense.
Yeah. Zoe did Star Trek and Avatar in the same year, then went to
Yeah.
the losers. Good
Yeah.
Lord, woman,
But-
why?
I think the problem is I think the losers was probably filmed before. I don't know what the development process was.
Yeah, but that's fair.
But it was probably filmed before
Yeah.
even the big movies that came out. It only came out after them.
Out of the 5 losers, 3 of them are in the Marvelverse.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Idris, Evans,
And Zoe.
and Zoe.
And I guess Jeffrey Dean Morgan is in the comic book world too, with Negan.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Cougs, what's up with that guy? Where is he now?
I know. Oscar Hianeda. I don't think that I don't know if that guy went on to do much. I know the actor who played Wade went on to play that type of character all the time. Like he's always
Cast
that-
from the get-go.
sorry?
He seemed typecast from the get-go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You
he's
can
always
tell people have villain face. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
When you have villain face,
villain
you're
face.
always
Yeah. I could see that. That's
That's
funny.
why for the longest time it was hard for me to take what's his name seriously other than the villain.
Did
Buck
you
Teeth.
notice that Idris got the Lion King treatment in this film?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry?
Well, because in the comic book, he's not a black guy, and in this one, it's like you're choosing the black British guy to be the bad guy. Like in Lion King, the original one, they had everyone was white, but then the hyenas were all black casts, and then
I see what you're saying.
villain was the British guy. Like that's kind of
Yeah, I mean, when I watch this movie, I think the fact that they got Zoe, Columbus, and Idris to all be in it, and they're just like, okay, we're gonna have multiple black people, so that when the black guy's the villain, people can't say, "Look how you're depicting black people." No. Zoe is the temptress, kick-ass woman, and Columbus is a family man who worked so hard to get back to that baby of his. Look, a black father, be proud. It's like, okay, yeah, no.
Okay, there's something else that made this whole movie unbelievable. None of them look war-torn. None of them look like they've been through a freaking battle in their life.
it looks like they lost their money in the stock market. That's
None of them look like they had anything to come back home to because they were never home. They were always on like the run.
perfectly cleanly shaven.
Yeah.
Like, perfect.
I love that Roke had that like slight scar over his eye. That looked
like come on.
Like it looked like he was doing bacon and the oil burned his eye. Like I saw that and I was just like, oh, okay, that's supposed to be not like a scar. Like
I never noticed that before. I think I noticed the scar maybe halfway through the movie.
Yeah, I agree. It's true. I didn't notice it at the beginning. It's only when him and Clay are walking in Bolivia, and he turns to Clay and he's like well lit, and he tells Clay, "You need to get us home." That's when you notice the scar the first time, at least for me.
I wonder if that's written in the script.
Yeah, that's true. We should check into that. So many things that they just did so poorly in the script.
I just doing nothing after this. I just looked.
Yeah, no, of course not.
He was in Pirates in the Caribbean. Then he was on a show called Pirates, and the picture is the exact same picture as the Pirates in the Caribbean.
Oh god,
it's sad.
Well, just in terms of box office, this movie cost about $40 million to make. Any guess as to how much it made in theaters?
It cost $40 million to make?
Yes.
20.
I would say no. I would say it made its money. I would say it made 60.
29 million, guys.
What?
So this movie did not did not even the bank. Obviously, that's why there was never a sequel. Outside, even if it made money, I don't think
so hard to set up for a sequel.
Of course,
hard. But
especially at the end with Zoe saying like, "We're gonna go after the rest of the Oregon. We'll meet at the end." Blah blah. Blah, right? So,
probably made their money back though with the DVD or the rentals afterwards. I feel a lot of skip this and watched it later.
Yeah, probably. It probably made an extra 20 mil over the years.
Yeah,
but like that's normal. But
they didn't even break their 40. That's rude.
No,
that is rude.
And that's the lowest they could have gotten any one of those actors at the time, by the way.
Seriously.
Now
fair,
that movie would cost $100 million. I think standard now is $100 million for a movie of this caliber.
Let alone, again, you have three Marvel players, right?
Yeah,
all of them getting at least 10 million
at least. And then every single explosion is another 10 million. There were so many unnecessary explosions in this movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, outside of that, what are your final thoughts in terms of, let's say, the comic book? How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5?
3.
2.5 with a big snore.
2.5.
Like,
wow.
Yeah, I'll give it a 3.
I was really bored reading it. I won't lie.
2.5. I would go lower. I'm going like 1.6.
No, yeah.
I'm not even playing with this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could go 2.5 because I'm thinking about it. I'm like, the fact that I didn't finish it the first read through, like I had to stop and I had to like give up, and then I watched the movie and then continued because I was like, yeah, I guess I have to finish this.
The movie gives you the strength to finish the comic book. If anything,
I only did it because we had to for the show. I wouldn't if we weren't doing this comic book and I was trying to read this for fun, I would have stopped because I wasn't interested. The only thing that I wanted to know was who was Max, and that I just Googled.
That was crazy, right? The movie gives it to you ASAP.
Yeah.
The graphic novel does not by any. I didn't even think Max was a real thing.
Yeah, they pretty much write it off that Max is an idea and not. He's like a ghost spy that they use to lure people in. Is what they're.
He's like the Phantom. Like they always replace the person who is the Phantom. They always replace the person who is.
It feels like there's a good idea in this, guys. Every time as we're talking about it and we say it's like it feels like there's something there, like some nugget that created this world, but it was just not a good enough nugget to build off of. It needed to be fleshed out more before they actually made this. And then the movie itself, what would your rating be based on our low rating for the graphic novel? I'm assuming that'll go up a little.
To be honest, I actually very enjoyed the movie, so I would give it. I mean, my original before reading the comic book and all that type of stuff. So I would give it a 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, if the comic is a 2.5, I would give the movie a 3.5. And the movie is the type of thing where I'm like, hey, guys, do you want to do a double header? I would be like, yeah, let's do a double header and watch The Losers and the A-Team together. And then that's what I would do.
But the question is, which one would you watch first?
Which one would I watch first? I'd probably watch the A-Team. No, I'd probably watch The Losers first and then watch the A-Team.
Yeah, so
I would do a double header, and I would watch the two movies together on a movie night, and that's what I would do. That's the only way to get me to watch the movie if I didn't have to watch it again.
It was hard to get through, guys.
Yeah,
it was really hard to get through the movie. I remember 2010. Toby saw this movie. I thought it was fantastic. For some reason, I actually was like, "Whoa, this is," and I don't remember why. Maybe because I had just seen the A-Team, and this was better than the A-Team in some ways. Maybe. I would have given it 3.54 back then, but now with all my, let's say the past 10 years of quality content we've gotten, first in TV, graphic novels, everything.
Yeah.
It's going to get maybe a 2 for me. It was really hard to get through. I'm not going to, it was just.
So 1.6 and then 2?
Just that extra 0.4, because what was lacking in the graphic novel in terms of the background, they gave that to me in the movie, but it was still the same pacing of like that. There was no, it was just very like, all right, what's next?
Marvel overshadow. That's what I think has happened. It's Marvel overshadow.
Maybe
it's the fact you've gotten all these really good comic book movies in the last year, but
it showed me what quality was, I guess, and this is not it.
Yeah.
Dave's like, no, it's okay. Yeah, it's true. There's no quality here.
Oh, rough.
I'll read you guys a review that I found on Goodreads, which is one of my first places I go to whenever I'm actually looking for something else to read. And it's a lot of 5-star ratings for this graphic novel. It's pretty incredible.
Really?
Yeah.
It means it has to get better after this. It has to.
Well, what's interesting about what you just said is a lot of them actually highlighted the things we said were wrong as being the reasons why they're reading this graphic novel. So someone says this book was actually, let me give names here. The Laughing Listener says this book was so awesome. It's been days since I read this and my head is still spinning. So much action jammed into one book. Every friggin' page has something going on. I couldn't put it down. This graphic novel was a kick-ass, awesome graphic novel, and I can't wait to start the next one to see what happens.
I thought they were saying it's like Kick-Ass, like as if it's as good, and I was about to get really upset. I was like, like I was gonna get really mad.
There's a lot of sort of similarities in the comments in terms of it being action-packed, and that's what makes it a good graphic novel.
But it wasn't. It took so long.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's why I'm confused whenever I see.
But maybe, because I won't lie, the first 3 issues there is a lot of talk. Then issue 4, 5, and 6, the action does build. So if by chance you have to read through past 6 and find constant action, good for you. But you're not going to get my money for that. No,
yeah, and
You're not
Sarah
getting
agrees with you.
to get it into it. No
She
way.
rates it a 1 star and says, "I did not finish this. This was just bad."
Like that comment.
Yeah, I'm surprised that was the only 1 star rating I could see here. Everything else is about 3 to 4 stars, which kind of falls in line with you guys' ratings. But I am definitely I'm with Sarah on this one. This was trash, and if we didn't have to do this, I would not even have gotten past the first issue.
No, mind you, though, maybe I think this is trash because of the fact that we've read actually a lot of good since starting this show. We've read a lot of good graphic novels and comic books, so it might be just the comparison factor. But yeah, no. Snores. Then again, maybe some people who really like army and espionage maybe this is really geared to them and they're liking it.
It's literally
in America.
Everyone said the action is the best. So I have a hard time really identifying with that sentiment.
Yeah.
But I didn't think so. Outside of that, I think, do we have anything else to touch on with this graphic novel movie? Final thoughts?
No, that was it.
Would you recommend it? Would you not?
Read it, watch it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation. I'll read it, watch it.
And if you like a good sequel or a spinoff, just go watch Colombiana.
Yeah. Or prequel or whatever we want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, would Colombiana be a prequel?
It would be a prequel if she was fucked up. If she got fucked up in that movie, it would be the prequel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And if she's fucked up and gets to that point, then yeah.
Interesting.
But if you're telling me in Colombiana her father dies from some random person that she doesn't find at the end of that movie, then this really is the prequel because that's what.
No, I think she deals with everybody in Colombiana.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. If that was the case, that's fantastic. All right, guys, we got through this one. It wasn't as grueling as a lot of the other ones we've done in previous seasons, but
it's not far.
It's not far at all. The artwork is not as bad as Coyote though. Coyote
no,
okay.
I'll give it that. I enjoyed the artwork. I'll give it that. It's a unique style. It's nice.
All right, boys.
All right.
Anything else you'd like to say to the crew, to the people listening before we go? The crew.
Make sure you check out all things FranklinArmstrong.com, baby. That's it.
Chilling. Have a good one, fellas.
Peace.
Thanks for being on this horrible ride with me.